Welcome to a couple of monkeys.
Last year we converted this 220 dust collector to 110 since we didn't have enough room on our electrical box in order to add a 220 outlet. But since that time we did a major renovation on our house and we were able to eliminate one of the breakers. And I know what you might be saying. You can't do 220 on just one breaker. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to reorganize your breaker box. Run some new electrical cord, install a 220 outlet, and rewire your dust collector for 220. First, we need to find out how much amps the dust collector is going to be drawing. So it looks like it's a 9 amp motor that we're working with. So I should be able to use 14.2 Romex cable for this project. The previous owner of the dust collector ended up giving me some of the electric that he had installed inside of his barn in order to run the dust collector. But it's about 10 feet shorter than what I really could use. So I'm going to just salvage some of these parts and set the cable aside for future projects. So as you can see, this is my breaker box. So before rearranging the breakers, I'm going to go ahead and feed the cable all the way to the location where I plan to install the dust collector. So I looked up the electrical code on this, and it looks like I can fit 4 12-2 non-metallic shielded cables through a single borehole. There were plenty of boreholes throughout the basement due to the house being from the 50s and having lots of upgrades and downgrades over the years. I may have had to go a little out of the way in some cases in order to find a borehole heading in the right direction, but in the end I was able to make it to my destination. And this is the location where I want the new dust collector to sit. And this is the wall that I want to install the electrical box. Now the electrical box that came with the dust collector looks like it has a bracket that is tack welded into place, and it's probably supposed to be installed on the side of a stud. There were also 4 screw holes attached to the back. I was able to transfer and drill the holes with the electrical box and add cement anchors to the holes. We had some PVC conduit left over from a job that we had under a deck. Since this is an unfinished basement, any electrical wires need to be run through a conduit when it's attached to a wall. Now since this is a 220, there is no neutral circuit on this outlet. So you're going to have to mark the white wire as hot, usually by putting a piece of black tape on it. So I run the wire through the conduit, add a conduit connector, and attach the conduit to the electrical box. Now I install the electrical outlet. After all the wires are connected, I screw in the outlet and attach the outlet cover. Now I want to move the new dust collector into place and switch it back over to 220. So all we need to do is move the yellow and the black wire to the center screw. I remove the piece of plastic on the front. I remove the black and yellow wires from the 2 outer posts. And attach them to the center post and screw everything in. Reapply the plastic and metal covers and you should be done. And I have to reinstall a new 220 plug. But first I need to take off this 110. just 2 screws for the base. That part actually crimps down on the wire, so if you ever pull directly on the cord, you're not pulling directly on the connections for the wires. Remove the 3 screws on top and it will pull apart so you can remove the wires individually. This 220 plug splits apart and I can access the screws in order to insert the wires. Since there is no neutral, I don't have to worry about the colors for the exception of the green. Green goes where the ground is. Now all I need to do is close both sides of the plug and screw them together. Now I get to move my dust collector into its final location. I feel that this is a really good location for a dust collector. It is the most constant sound inside of my shop, and with the 3 walls, I feel that I can really soundproof the area a lot better. Now I need to take power from the electrical box to the dust collector. That means I'm going to have to remove some breakers and combine some. This cord that's hanging from the ceiling is the cord that is running from the dust collector. I removed the white insulation from the conduit, leaving me the copper, the white, and the black cables. I left myself all sorts of room for feeding it into the electrical box, and I removed about 1/2 inch of insulation on the white and black wires. Now we'll go ahead and open up the electrical box. But first I need to secure power. Main power is right here. Remove these 6 screws and the front panel comes right off. I would definitely stay away from the mains power at the top of the breaker box. As of right now, we're using inch breakers. Since our breaker box is able to take inch and 1/2 inch breakers, I was able to combine these 2 breakers with 2 20 amp QT breakers. So I was able to remove these 2 wires from these breakers. Just tip and pull the old breaker out, and then I attached the 2 wires and screwed them in to the new QT breaker. Add the new QT breaker. I knocked out one of the knockouts, added a connector, and fed my wires through the box. And I add a 15 amp double pole breaker to wire in the black and white wires from the wires that I ran from the dust collector, and run the copper wire to the ground bar. And of course install the new breaker just like you did the other one. Now I can reattach the cover and restore power to the entire house. And now the moment of truth. This setup is beneficial for me in lots of different ways. It made it so I can regain all of this corner real estate in my shop, and I was able to regain a plug, and I can close it off in order to make it more soundproof. It's honestly a really quiet dust collector. The biggest benefit is being able to isolate it from the rest of the shop. If you've enjoyed this content, consider liking and subscribing.